Hey everyone, I'm Megyn Kelly. Welcome to the Megyn Kelly Show in our Thursday AM special episode, and I'm excited about this one. We got to talk about CBS. They are having a week over there. We brought you the story last week about CBS host Ta-Nehisi Coates' challenging interview with author Ta-Nehisi Coates, who's one of those pillars of the liberal elite that you're supposed to only praise and never, ever question. Well, there have been some crazy updates to the story this week. And before we get to that, we've got to talk about what happened with the 60 Minutes interview that we went through in great detail on Tuesday. Don't miss a moment. Subscribe to this show on YouTube and follow me on Insta, Facebook, and X. Being able to run your business on your schedule is not just a luxury, it's a necessity. If mailing items like legal documents, checks, or marketing materials takes up a lot of your time, Stamps.com is the time saver you need. Cut down hours spent mailing and shipping with Stamps.com and do it all on your own timeline. From small businesses to multi-location organizations, Stamps.com handles all your mailing and shipping needs wherever, whenever. Take care of mailing and shipping wherever you are, even on the go, with the Stamps.com address. All you need is a computer and a printer. That's all you need. They even send you a free scale. Easily schedule package pickups through your Stamps.com dashboard and automatically see the cheapest and fastest shipping options from different carriers. Get rates you can't find anywhere else, like up to 89% off USPS and UPS. Order supplies and even printers from the supply store when you run low. Sign up at Stamps.com and enter code MK for a special offer that includes a 4-week trial plus free postage and a free digital scale. No long-term commitments or contracts. That's Stamps.com, code MK. It turns out we should have been even more attentive to what 60 had done to that interview. It was very obviously edited, but we didn't quite put it together that they had edited the answer they put out as their tease on Sunday and Monday by the time the piece aired on Monday night. And it was a pretty shocking scrubbing of a word salad answer by Kamala Harris. So here's what I think happened. They put out this Q&A, just like a quick Q&A about whether or not Netanyahu's listening to us. And they included in their tease her word salad answer, or at least part of it. And they, because they're liberals, don't see her answers as word salady. They're like, yeah, that's our girl. Look at her. She's saying tough things. And no one realized that this was going to make her look bad, because they would not have released it this way had they done that, had they realized that. Well, then the internet went crazy over this clip because she sounds terrible. For this audience, it's the common terribleness. It's the stuff you've heard a million times. She's so wordy. She takes 50 words to say what could be said in 5. It's the typical annoying Kamala Harris stuff. So by the time they aired the interview in full on Monday night, they had cleaned up the answer. They had pulled a much shorter, tighter, but still inane phrase from a different part of her answer, and they whitewashed the word salad and sort of got rid of all the word salad and boiled it down to like 1 green pepper. It's no longer a salad. It's just 1 green pepper that you could understand and eat easily. So there is a Twitter account, Maze Moore, that put together the answer that CBS put out as part of its tease next to the answer that aired in the actual 60 Minutes piece. And the toss is about Netanyahu. Watch.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
We are not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end.
Oh, my God. I mean, you see what they did, don't you? It's so nakedly partisan and desperate to save her. That first answer is just classic Kamala Harris, isn't it? The work that we have done has resulted in movements. What? I'm already lost. Even the answer she gave was somewhat classic Kamala, but the first one was beyond. And so this is CBS running cover for Kamala Harris. I'm amazed they had the guts to do it, given that they had released the tease. Normally, you'd have a discussion behind closed doors saying, well, now we've got to live with it. We put it out as the tease, guys. We're going to get hit if we clean it up and try to make her look better. We've already released the real answer. But nobody did that. And now we know. But I mean, like that first answer, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements. What? Already, right? By Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region. Oh my God, it's so bad. It's particularly bad. I mean, at least 10 clauses in there in what should have been a one clause answer. So they're getting hit by that, but only by the right online. And it's kind of a fun story to enjoy. So now the other controversy is the meltdown that's happening inside this very unbiased, truly journalistic outlet when it comes to this interview we discussed last week on the CBS morning show, which is hosted by three people, Gayle King and two other guys, including the guy we're about to show you, Ta-Nehisi Coates, whose last name I didn't even know until this, and some other guy whose name I still don't know. So they had on Ta-Nehisi Coates, right? He's like a Kendi type. They all love him on the left. If you criticize him, you're going to get it because he must be praised because he literally wrote the case for reparations. And he really, really, really wants people like the two white guys on the set to be paying reparations to people like him. Notwithstanding the fact that they may not have been here, their ancestors may not have been here when any of the slavery went down. None of that's irrelevant to people like Ta-Nehisi Coates. Ta-Nehisi, whatever. So he wrote this book. He decided to meander over into the Israeli-Palestinian conflict because what we really needed was his take. You'll be shocked to learn he reduced it to skin color. Shocked to learn it's about colonialism for him. So he wrote this piece, which he has absolutely no knowledge of or expertise in this region. Who would have the hubris to try to write a book on this region that's a Johnny-come-lately to it? I mean, that is just so absurd, but he's so used to universal praise. He's like, sure, I'll put this in perspective for you. It's about Israel being the bad guy. Bye. Now I'll sell, number one on the bestseller list. I'll make the Times. So he put that out. He admits it's an entirely one-sided view of the conflict. He admits it. So he shows up on the CBS morning show. We showed you some of this before, but I'm going to show it to you just to set up what's since happened so you can see what has caused an all-out meltdown inside of CBS News, involving the very top executives, involving Sherry Redstone, the owner of CBS Viacom. It's not done. Now we've gotten a very unfortunate update in it today involving the anchor himself. I'm going to walk you through it, but here is the thing that set it all off in the original exchange, in part between Coates and this anchor Tony.
I have to say, when I read the book, I imagine if I took your name out of it, took away the awards and the acclaim, took the cover off the book, the publishing house goes away, the content of that section would not be out of place in the backpack of an extremist. Why leave out that Israel deals with terror groups that want to eliminate it? Why not detail anything of the first and the second intifada, the cafe bombings, the bus bombings, the little kids blown to bits? And is it because you just don't believe that Israel, in any condition, has a right to exist?
Well, I would say the perspective that you just outlined, there is no shortage of that perspective in American media. I have asked repeatedly in my interviews whether there is a single network, mainstream organization in America with a Palestinian-American bureau chief or correspondent who actually has a voice to articulate their part of the world. I've been a reporter for 20 years. The reporters of those who believe more sympathetically about Israel and its right to exist don't have a problem getting their voice out.
It's what I struggled with throughout this book. What is it that so particularly offends you about the existence of a Jewish state that is a Jewish safe place and not any of the other states out there?
There's nothing that offends me about a Jewish state. I am offended by the idea of states built on ethnocracy, no matter where they are. I'm the child of people that were born into a country where that was exactly the case, of American apartheid. I walk over there and I walk through the occupied territories and I walk down a street in Hebron. And a guy says to me, I can't walk down the street unless I profess my religion. I'm with another path. No. I want to. This is very, very important.
It is important. It is
extremely important.
Yeah, lay it down.
I'm working with the person that is guiding me is a Palestinian whose father, whose grandfather and grandmother was born in this town, and I have more freedom to walk than he does.
And why is that okay? Why is that? Why is there no agency in this book for the Palestinians? They exist in your narrative merely as victims of the Israelis, as though they were not offered peace at any juncture, as though they don't have a stake in this as well. What is their role in the lack of a Palestinian?
I have a very, 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 very moral compass about this. And again, perhaps it's because of my ancestry. Either apartheid is right or it's wrong. It's really, really simple.
He's got a very, very, very moral compass about this. What Tony DeCopel was trying to do was to say, there's another side of the story. There's a reason the Palestinians' rights are somewhat abridged inside of Israel. There's a history there, you see, of them attacking Israel over and over and over, even the peaceful civilians who tried to give them jobs, who tried to drive their kids to doctors for them, who tried to have a peaceful existence living next to them, only to get bombed over and over and over again. That's what he was trying to say. And Coates saw it a different way. Fine. What this anchor was trying to do was offer the other side of the story. That's what led to the meltdown, because that's not allowed. And I'm telling you, if it hadn't been Ta-Nehisi Coates, if it hadn't been this revered black writer who is like a Kendi type to these leftists who are inside these media organizations, they would not be having the meltdown. They would see exactly what had happened there. But, for these leftists, race colors everything. It does. It colors everything. It's like the rose-colored glasses, only it doesn't make them see things in a more rosy way. It makes them see a very dark, sad world in which we're all reduced to skin color. And any white who questions somebody who is black in anything approaching a confrontational manner is bad. Remember White Chicks for Kamala? God forbid you think about correcting a person of color. That woman was nuts, but she speaks for these leftists. That's how they see these exchanges. And it's playing out right now inside of CBS. You'd think a news organization would understand that's nonsense. This is what we do for a living. That's not what happened. So on Monday, this happened like a week or so ago. On Monday, 10/7, the 1 year mark after the worst terrorist attack in Israel, Monday, 10/7, CBS decided to hold an all hands on deck staff meeting. And it was an editorial meeting. And somebody taped it, because people were allowed to participate via Zoom, which promptly got canceled after they realized somebody had leaked this. They're not going to be having any more on Zoom. And it included Wendy McMahon, the head of CBS News, and Adrian Rourke, who's in charge of news gathering at the network. And they kicked this thing off by apologizing to the staff for that interview. Listen to Adrian Rourke, in charge of news gathering at CBS News, and what she said. SOT 2, 20.
And as hard as this is, that means we set our personal feelings and beliefs aside. We will still ask tough questions. We will still hold people accountable. That's part of our job too. But we will do so objectively. And that means, very plainly, we have to check our bias and opinions at the door. Many of you have reached out to express concerns over recent reporting, specifically about the CBS Morning's Coates interview from last week, as well as comments made coming out of some of our correspondents' reporting. This has been addressed, and it will continue to be in the future. Because this goes way beyond one interview, one comment, one story. This is about preserving the legacy of neutrality and objectivity that is CBS News.
Wow. Legacy of neutrality and objectivity. She went on to say, there are times we fail our audiences and each other. We're in one of those times right now. She threw this guy under the bus. What he did was somehow morally wrong. And that was obvious to this person, Adrian Rourke, that he had somehow besmirched CBS News's pristine journalistic legacy. There was a time when that was the case, when Uncle Walter was doing the evening news, Walter Cronkite. That time has passed, and they know it. So Jan Crawford, who is an excellent reporter, she was at the Supreme Court covering SCOTUS when I was, and she's been their justice correspondent for 15 years, I think. She was on that morning editorial call and defended the interview and her colleague. Here, listen to that in part.
Our commitment was to truth. And when someone comes on our air with a one-sided account of a very complex situation, as Coates himself acknowledges that he has, it's my understanding that as journalists, we are obligated to challenge that worldview so that our viewers can have that access to the truth or a fuller account, a more balanced account. And to me, that is what Tony did. He prevented a one-sided account from being broadcast on our network. As journalists, it seems to me that's what we have an obligation to do. And as someone that does a lot of interviews, including on controversial topics with public figures, I'm not really sure now how to proceed in challenging viewpoints that are obviously one-sided and devoid of fact or history.
Good for her. She's exactly right. How is he being chastised when you're presenting somebody who's only got one side of the story on a very controversial topic on a news program that purports to be straight down the middle, straight news, not taking a side here? How is she supposed to navigate that when you're not allowed to ask challenging questions? You're not allowed to press him with even provocative questions. That's ridiculous. That is the legacy of CBS News decades ago. Obviously, they've gotten far afield of that. As you know, they recently let Catherine Herridge go because even though she's a great reporter when it comes to the intelligence field, she was getting a little too close to the truth. I mean, it's no shock. You all saw what CBS News did during that vice presidential debate. They literally cut the mic of the Republican vice presidential candidate when he was trying to correct a fake news fact check that was being brought down upon him in a debate they said they wouldn't fact check. Cut his mic so he couldn't make his point, and on it goes. That's who they are today. And this woman trying to cloak herself in sanctimony is like, oh, our legacy. Please, who are you kidding? You only got upset when one of your leftist idols was challenged meaningfully by one of the morning hosts. So now they're in a full-on struggle session over there, full-on struggle session, to the point where they invited, according to Dylan Byers, who's a media critic and reporter, he writes for Puck News, they invited self-described mental health expert, DEI strategist, and trauma trainer, Dr. Donald Grant, to moderate conversation on this issue within CBS in an all-staff meeting the next day. Well, people started to look up, who is this guy, Dr. Donald Grant, self-described trauma trainer. And if you look at his Instagram, this is at Jerry Dunleavy on X posted this. You see a graphic this trainer posted called Magicide, a noun. Death of a nation caused by injuring said nation with the intent to destroy through the adoption of insidious policies, the normalization of divisive practices, and the installation of sociopathic people. A magicide attempt is when a subpopulation of a nation harms that nation with the intent to destroy. Even worse than that, their chosen expert who's going to help them heal after Tony's cardinal sins is someone who posted a photo of what he captioned Uncle Tim's cabin. It is a photo with Senator Tim Scott's face photoshopped on the faces of black people outside of a cabin. And they threw in Candace Owens for good measure. This is unbelievable. Tim Scott, to his credit, retweeted this news that they were going to use this guy as their trauma counselor with a message that read, "You good, CBS?" Perfect. Perfectly done. You guys okay? There was also a graphic on this trainer's Instagram of how to pronounce Kamala's name. He got very angry because he said it's only racist and sexist because these names just roll off your tongue. Federer, Skarsgård, Djokovic, which, let's face it, that took all of us forever to pronounce. Galifianakis, same. We put in extra effort to get some people's names right, not because they're tricky, but because we care. You see, we only care about the whites like Djokovic, and we don't care about Kamala because she's black. Then there was one about that had a photo of a black man holding a sign that reads, "Dear white people, stop using Dr. King as an example of a peaceful protest. You shot him too." So this was going to be the healing character that they brought into CBS News to heal the rift. And you know what? There's some honesty in it because it was turning into a racial thing. The reports were that the black staffers were very upset at Tony and very angry that he didn't allow Gail to speak, not to mention the other guy who was a white man. They felt like, Gail should have been allowed more. And now everything boils down to like, how much airtime did the black woman get versus this white guy, this white Jewish guy, God forbid, who's, by the way, not only is he Jewish, but he has an ex-wife who lives in Israel with his children. So he's got a lot of knowledge about this region and has standing, if you will, to object to the one-sided nature of Coates' book and was totally within the bounds of reason in doing so. All right, so they decide after Jerry Dunleavy does his homework and posts this online, maybe we shouldn't invite this so-called doctor, Dr. Donald Grant, to moderate this conversation. Might not really be the best choice. So we're not sure who, if anybody, moderated said conversation. But in the meantime, on the subject of Gayle King, the following trailer drops. You see, Coates decided to go, as he's promoting this book, on Trevor Noah's podcast, the guy who used to host The Daily Show. And they released a lengthy trailer for Ta-Nehisi Coates' appearance with Trevor Noah. And would you listen to how Coates, describes his conversation with Gayle King backstage right before the interview we just went through? Watch.
And I know she's getting a lot of stuff right now, so I really want to say this. Gayle King is a great journalist and a great interviewer. And Gayle came behind the stage before we went, and she had gone through the book. And I'm not saying she agreed with the book. She was like, I'm going to ask you about this, I'm going to ask you about that. I want you. It was like
Gayle was considered.
Oh my
if
God.
There's one thing Gayle King is, it's considered.
Listen,
but she didn't speak.
It was her handwritten notes. Her handwritten notes with it. You know what I mean? She had all these things, and I think while on the one hand, he probably did me a service, you know what I mean, by just kind of commandeering that interview, I don't think he did Nate and Gayle a service. And I'm really, really sorry for them.
Okay. First of all, a correction. The third anchor on the set, Steve Krakauer tells me, is named Nate Burleson. And he's not white. He's black. I didn't know that. I never watched this channel. I have no idea who this. But I guess that's a double sin. Because now you not only didn't let Gayle speak, who is black, you didn't let Nate Burleson speak, and he's black too. So double sin by their co-host, Tony DeCopel. So you hear Ta-Nehisi Coates there saying that Gayle King went over what she was going to be asking him before the interview. She had all of her notes there, and she went over it in advance. That is not okay. That is not okay at any news organization. Not before an interview where the guy is coming on a subject like this, a dicey. This isn't like two girlfriends sitting down like, hey, what kind of wine do you like? Or even like Stephen Colbert saying, we're going to ask her about beer. That he's not a journalist, but I'm just saying that kind of lighthearted thing, like what kind of beer does she like? What should we? That's fine. Going to a guest who is controversial, who's written a very controversial book and saying, these are the points I'm going to raise. And I don't know how far that went. Did she give actual questions? But even telling him, this is where we're going to go together. I'm going to ask you this, then we're going to go over this. I'm going to zero in on this. That's not okay. And you heard it straight from the horse's mouth. He's saying, the guest is saying she did it. Is Gayle King going to be dragged in front of the rest of the staff and chastised by this woman, this editorial boss, and Adrian Rourke about meeting the editorial standards of CBS News, that they need to lean into their objectivity and checking their biases and their opinions, and that sometimes we fail our audiences and we're in one of those times? Don't hold your breath. I mean, what an embarrassment. And it's to the point now where she hasn't even come out and spoken to it. It's like she doesn't feel the need to defend herself. It's fine. No one expected anything more of her. And she knows that because she's at CBS, because she's Gayle King, Oprah's best friend, and a black woman, no one's going to give her a hard time about it. They're not going to give her a hard time. She's the victim in this, you see, because she didn't get to ask her questions that she'd already gone over with Coates. She's the victim. So here's the last chapter in this, at least for now. Wait, one thing before I get to the last chapter. Tony Sin was allegedly showing bias on a subject that is near and dear to him. That's not okay at CBS News. That's what they want us to believe. But the Free Press, our friends over at the Free Press, took a deep dive into this, and they pointed out the hypocrisy of this, the double standard. Because after Central Park Karen, remember, Amy Cooper had her dust up with the bird watching guy who was so nasty to her about her dog, they allowed Gayle King to go on the air and do the following. SOT 24.
I am speechless. I'm really, really speechless about what we're seeing on television this morning. It feels to me like an open season, and that it's just not sometimes a safe place to be in this country for black men. And today is too much for me.
She personalized it. She editorialized. She offered her opinion on a very controversial case that was in the news. She spoke to it as a black woman. Totally fine. Totally fine. But this guy, Tony, speaking to a very controversial issue that's in the news and a one-sided presentation of it happened on his air, he may not speak to his personal opinion as a Jewish man with kids living in Israel. That violates CBS's editorial standards. F you, CBS. You're disgusting. You know exactly what you did. His view needed to be silenced because it was in defense of Israel. And because the staffers on board, in particular, according to the reports, the minority staffers, probably the young kids, threw a fit about equity and centering black and brown people, and you caved. Because that's what these networks do. They also appear to have made Tony Dokoupil have a private meeting with Nate and Gayle in his office. And here is the final chapter for now. This is from the New York Post in an exclusive. Tony spoke at Tuesday's staff-only meeting, the one from which the trauma trainer got booted. It was not attended by Gayle and Nate, said a source with knowledge. He said he regretted putting his colleagues in that position, especially those who are overseas and in danger, as if CBS is like choosing a side. Bullshit. What a lie. There were tears. People were very upset. Staffers are divided on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. We know that's why he was right to offer the other side. And they were troubled by how he challenged Coates last week. They say he did not back down from his questioning of Coates. But some black staffers who attended the meeting were critical that Nate Burleson and King have remained tight-lipped about the matter. Dokoupil held a private meeting Monday with his co-hosts in his office. And now he's out there offering his regrets. He regrets putting his colleagues in that position. So that's as close as we're going to get to, I guess, his apology, which is what they really want. or his head on a stake. That will satisfy them. Look, I'm just going to tell you something. I went through this. I've been in this guy's exact position where the staff at one of these woke leftist media organizations goes into full meltdown because they didn't like something factual that you said, and then you're forced to talk to your colleagues about it, to have these struggle sessions with these woke asshole young producers who don't know shit, one of whom I gave this guy so many opportunities at NBC News. Nobody knew who this guy was. I gave him so many opportunities, and he stuck the knife in me just as soon as I ran into trouble there, and then had the nerve to come begging me for a job after NBC fired his ass. It was so fun telling him to pound sand. Really, I just ignored him, which is the best response. But I did see your request, and you know who you are, and you've got nerve asking me to hire you. Anyway, karma has a way of settling things in that way. But I'm sure this is stressful for this poor guy who's never in the news. Let's face it, nobody knows who this is. And suddenly all of his colleagues turn on him, except for Jan Crawford. And he got the bosses of his whole network calling all hands on deck meetings to embarrass you and publicly pretend like you've committed some terrible sin. It's traumatic. And I'm sure he's very on his heels right now and wondering if somehow he did something wrong or he's got to make amends somehow. And I certainly hope that his two co-hosts went in there and said, you did nothing wrong. I certainly hope they did that. And you know what? They should say that publicly. They should have his back publicly. They should make sure that they get asked that question at their next media appearance, and they should have his back. I was in a worse position because my anchors were publicly attacking me everywhere, on the air, on the Today Show, all over Twitter, publicly attacking me. He's not quite in that position, but certainly nobody defended me, including Gayle King, by the way, who I was friends with. Did she defend? No, she didn't. No. So in any event, I don't think we can expect great things from her or the co-host. I don't know him and I don't know anything about him. But so far, they're letting this guy twist. And CBS is fine with ruining his reputation, letting him just seem like he's committed some journalistic sin, and letting people like Jan twist too, wondering, what exactly am I expected to do here at this news organization? All right, we're going to get to your questions in a minute. We're going to do a little asked and answered on this show. But first, I want to bring you another edition of a franchise in this show that we call You Can't Say That, where we highlight something you can't say or do or think. You're just not allowed to in 2024 America. Today's topic is personal, not for me, but for my producer, Lauren, who we snatched up a couple of years ago out of the beautiful state of California. Now, we love the weather in California, and we love Lauren. However, you know, it's basically the People's Republic of California. And so we got lucky and found Lauren in Orange County. That was smart. We got her, and now she is a producer working for the Megyn Kelly Show. But before that, she was a member of the USC Song Girl team. You probably never heard of the Song Girls unless you're from Southern California. Well, let me tell you about them. The Song Girls, they're not cheerleaders. They have those too at the University of Southern California, but these girls are more of a dance squad, and they work hard. Essentially athletes themselves who perform at all the big football games and the other big university events. Here you see them. The USC Song Girl team is known for its rich history, tradition, and is recognized as an iconic symbol of the university spirit. The Song Girls, according to the website, are, quote, often referred to as the ambassadors of the University of Southern California. The dedication, the loyalty, the quest for continual improvement are hallmarks of the team, says the website. That sounds great. But then something strange happened. It happened quietly and just a couple of weeks ago. The U.S. Song Girls, you see, were renamed. What happened to the USC Song Girls? Why were they renamed? There wasn't a big announcement. Instead, the Song Girls website and social media accounts were just edited. The new name, the USC Song Leaders. In fact, the website URL just says USC Song. Now, just song. What's noticeably absent? Well, girls, of course. And the USC Song Girls are a team made up solely of girls and have been for each of the past 50 plus years in their existence. But suddenly the girls are gone. And now they are the song leaders. In fact, you can look throughout the team's website and social media posts, and the word girls doesn't appear at all. It has been scrubbed. So what happened? Well, we got a statement from USC's Assistant Director of Spirit Programs, who told us Spirit programs, which include the song team, spirit leaders and mascots, and the Trojan Marching Band, were brought together as the Spirit of Troy in 2022. The Spirit of Troy is actively enhancing a welcoming and positive team environment to include all students. The song team recently adopted the name Song Leaders, a name they held in the early 2000s. Ah, there it is. Welcoming, include. You know where this is going, and you know why this happened. Lauren may have been a song girl, but going forward, the future members of this team are going to be leaders only, with no gendered phrases so as not to offend the LGBTQ blah, 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 blah crowd. They are the ones for whom this was undoubtedly changed, and undoubtedly there will be a song boy who we just refer to as a song leader on the team sometime soon, if there isn't already. The next debate will be about what preferred pronouns we should be using for the song leaders. Do we say the song leaders would like to use the non-gendered bathroom? This is the captain of the song leaders. The leader would like to ask for your support. Let's watch how this works for them. Because when you erase women and you erase girls, you're playing with fire. You are setting us down a path that is very, very dangerous for women in America. We don't count. Our testimonials don't count. Womanhood doesn't count, is no longer a thing. And the next thing you know, you've got babies being born and grown in incubators. And you've got chest feeding. If you're not able to say what a woman is, what a girl is, without finding those terms offensive enough that they must be scrubbed right out of existence, USC, who continues to believe that if you have a bunch of women on a dance team and you want to call them song girls, well, you can't say that. Oh, wait, this is America. Coming up, I answer some of your questions. There's a lot at stake in this upcoming election. But regardless of who is sitting in the White House, the fuse on the economy has already been lit. Even 4 years of a conservative presidency will not be enough to turn the tide on our $35 trillion national debt. And if the left wins, it will be like throwing gas on a dumpster fire. What can you do? Well, you do have options. You could protect your savings by diversifying into gold with the help of Birch Gold Group. Gold has stood firm in the face of greedy governments, economic upheavals, and global strife, and it could protect you right now. Birch Gold will help you convert an IRA or a 401k into an IRA in physical gold, tax-free and penalty-free, and it doesn't cost you 1 cent out of pocket. In the past 4 years, the buying power of the U.S. dollar has declined, while the price of gold has increased 40%. Coincidence? Text the word letters MK to 989898. Get your free info kit on gold and trust Birch Gold Group to protect your savings. Text MK to the number 989898 today. Welcome back to the Megyn Kelly Show. All right, now we have an edition of Asked and Answered, which is where we answer some of our viewer mail. If you want to email me, you can do it now. It's Megyn, MEGYN, at megynkelly.com. And we will go through them every week, as we always do, and pull a few to address on the air. And we will read your emails privately. So that always happens. Only a few get selected. Steve Krakauer is here in the Red Studio with me today.
That's right. Yeah, it's good to be here.
This is our executive producer. You usually, sometimes he comes on, but you never get to see like the actual man sitting here.
And they're normally in Texas. But,
I know. Welcome.
Got out for a little bit. Yeah.
Great to have you here in the Northeast.
It's good to be here. I know we're talking election, getting ready for election night. So, so getting all that, getting that ready. It's going to be.
People don't know there's a whole other side of the studio over there, which we will be showing you on election night, and we're using lots of different places here for our coverage.
It's going to be big. It's going to be a big night. Yeah.
All right, so what do we have?
Well, that actually kind of dovetails with the first question here. This is from Matthew, who wants to know that they say Kamala Harris is not coming on this show. Probably not. We made the request, I should say. But if she did, what would be one question you would want to ask her?
What is a woman? I mean, I asked, or can a woman become a man? What I asked Trump. Let's see how she does. Can you imagine if I asked her that? Can a woman become a man? She would be so uncomfortable. That's why she will never come.
No. It would be about dreams and aspirations.
I'd really also like to ask her, you say that you proposed a border bill from day one of your administration. If you really wanted to crack down on the border, why did you reverse remain in Mexico? All of the asylum policies. I'd go through those executive orders that we've been reading on this show. Can you imagine?
Right.
I'd love to hear her answer that question.
It's like asking the border question in a way that actually gets an answer.
Yes.
Than what 60 Minutes did.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, here's another one. This is from Elizabeth. It's kind of a personal one. She says she's a 24-year-old graduate student at a university that claims to be Christian. It's interesting. In her classes, she's being instructed on how to support trans students, taking tests on how she can advocate for them. She wants to be a school psychologist, but she's feeling discouraged. What do you think? Should she continue in this career, or what should she do?
That is very tough because that industry has been captured by woke leftists, from the American Psychiatry Association to the American Academy of Pediatrics. And the standard in that industry is to affirm. And you actually could lose your license potentially if you don't do what they want you to do. In some states, it's considered conversion therapy. So I think I would be really sure what the regulations were in my chosen state. I'd probably stay to red states where you are allowed to explore issues thoughtfully and like with love, as opposed to just, no, you can only affirm, and find out whether you could potentially lose your license over that. Because how could you do it if you can't do it honestly? If you can't actually help these kids, how could you become part of that machine? It doesn't sound like you could live with that, and I don't blame you. You shouldn't live with that. So if that doesn't work out, you could always we've had a couple of people on this show, like Miriam Grossman, who have an outside counseling business for families and kids. And she's now gotten very bold about being a resource for families who want honest counseling in these situations. You could go that lane. And actually, you should connect with her. I think we actually have a contact for her.
Yeah.
Maybe we can hook her up.
Yeah. Elizabeth, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned
Elizabeth.
her name.
Maybe we can hook Elizabeth up so she can ask somebody who's already doing this kind of work on what the lanes available to her are. Elizabeth, we're going to do that for you.
Excellent. All right, last one. This is from Hallie. And she wants to know, you've spoken about your friendships over the years. She wants to know if you keep in touch with friends from high school, college, law school, and from which period of your life are your closest friends?
That's so sweet. They're spread out a bit. So my closest friend in high school and for middle school, for just a long period of my adolescence, was Kelly McGinnis. I've mentioned her on the show many times. Right. It was Megyn Kelly McGinnis. We were freaking frack. We dressed alike. We did everything together. We were inseparable. And she and I are still in touch. She's great. She still lives near my hometown. And then in college, I really kind of was with my boyfriend most of the time. I wound up deactivating from my sorority because I was just so into my boyfriend, who was a lacrosse player and couldn't go to any of the fraternity things or the mixers in the Greek system that I was supposed to go to. And he and I were just absolutely mad for one another. And so he was the main figure of that period for me. And no, we are no longer in touch. It didn't end badly. It actually ended really sweetly, but I wrote about it in my book. You can read it there. He's the one ex of mine that Doug really likes. When Doug hears the stories.
On, Sean Ryan also, right? I think I remember that story. Yeah, the lacrosse player. And the lesson about how, he was the one who was practicing and the other team was watching them. Yeah.
He just gave me such self-confidence in a way I didn't have before. He looked at me so differently. He taught me how to look at myself differently. And I have nothing but affection for this guy. I think his life ran into some serious trouble after we broke up. Not because we broke up, but just later. And we were in touch maybe once 10 years after that, just by phone. But still, I've got a soft spot for the guy and I wish him well. So that's kind of why I don't have a ton of college friends that I'm still in touch with. But my closest law school friend, Donna, you know Donna.
Yeah.
How do we know Donna?
Donna's a regular listener and viewer. I guess listener probably, right? She listens live.
She listens live on the SiriusXM app. She literally never misses a show.
No.
She's taken in every minute of content we've ever done. And right after the show, she gives me her thoughts. Like today, we're taping this on, is today Wednesday?
See if Donna approves.
Let's see what she texted me. Every day she gives me one. She said, LOL, re Kamala doing her Harry Belafonte imitation. Have you no empathy, man? And she went on from there. But I love my Donna reviews. If she doesn't like the show, she'll tell me that too. But this woman is so smart. She was a vice president at one of these big investment banks before she even got to law school. She was already so accomplished. And I was like, oh my God, this seems amazing. She already had a kid. She had a second kid in law school. And she still graduated at the top of our class on time. She was always a gunner. She went on to have a brilliant legal career. And now she's also back in my hometown. And we're in daily touch. I mean, we text about the show, blah, blah, blah. So in terms of my past life, she's definitely my closest friend. And then, now it's basically all the people I knew in New York and the people I'm meeting here in Connecticut. I'm already developing some great friendships out here. And it's great. I wouldn't say I'm the greatest at if I had a huge party to celebrate a birthday, you wouldn't see 15 people from this era and 15 people. I'm not like that. My life's too busy. But I have a couple who are really important to me.
That's great.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, keep the questions coming. MegynKelly.com.
That's right. And when you go to you should go to MegynKelly.com and just type in your email. We don't sell the emails. We don't do any of that nonsense, and we don't barrage you. On Fridays, we send you one email. It's just we call it the American News Minute because in 60 seconds or less, we'll give you all the news you need to know from the week, and we'll give you some highlights from the show, some fun updates, behind-the-scenes stuff, and always the Strudwick File remains the most clicked on item on the newsletter. It's amazing.
Yeah, they love him. I didn't see him earlier. I know.
That's because he goes to doggy daycare 3 days out of the 5.
Right.
We got Strud so that Thunder would have a buddy. And then he became such a handful and so naughty, we had to ship him off to doggy daycare 3 days of the week. So Thunder is still sitting there alone, and our house is also being destroyed.
Right. Right. I saw some of those pumpkins you were talking about a couple days ago. So
I came up today. He's eating all the pumpkins outside of my house. And the big squash things, I don't even know what they are. And he eats off the top. And so the exposed flesh of the pumpkin or squash, whatever, is there. And now I came up, it was like Animal Kingdom, the number of squirrels that were on my front porch. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, get out of here. The squirrels didn't even scurry. No. They were like, we're good. I'm like, get out of here, you rodents. Then finally they got off because I was like, move. They move and it's covered in bugs. There's bugs everywhere. I'm like, Strudwick.
That's what he does. Yeah.
That's his third huge squash he's eaten. Is squash low-cal?
I don't know. We have to ask Casey Means.
It's not going well, Steve.
No.
Anyway, thank you. And thanks to all of you for watching and listening. Check it out, MegynKelly.com, and send me your emails. Thanks for listening.